picture this. You step up to the tee box on a beautiful Saturday morning. The fairway is just wide open, practically begging for a great drive.
Oh, yeah. Best feeling in the world.
Right. So you take your stance, take a breath, and you execute what feels, in your bones, like an absolutely flawless swing.
Like pure perfection.
Exactly. I mean, your tempo was smooth, your balance was perfect, the contact felt totally solid. But then you look up.
It's not good.
No. The ball is inexplicably pulling hard to the left, or maybe it's slicing violently into the right rough, and instantly you do what every single golfer on the planet does.
You look straight at your hands.
You look at your hands. You blame a flaw in your mechanics. You just assume, well, I flick my wrist or I drop my shoulder.
Yeah, that's always the go-to.
But what if the true culprit isn't your swing at all? What if you're actually losing this invisible microscopic battle of physics happening in the milliseconds just before impact?
It really is, the ultimate illusion in sports. We feel a physical motion with our bodies, we see a result in the sky, and we just naturally draw a straight line between the two.
Because it makes sense to us intuitively.
Right. It totally makes sense. But drawing that straight line completely ignores the incredibly chaotic, violent events happening within the equipment itself. I mean, we are conditioned to think of a golf club as this stiff, static object.
Like a hammer.
Exactly, like a hammer. We assume that if we just swing the handle correctly, the heavy piece of metal at the bottom is going to do exactly what we want. But a golf club is definitely not a hammer.
And I think that sets up our mission for this deep dive perfectly. We are exploring the fascinating sports science of golf club dynamics.
Which is so needed.
Yeah, we're moving way past those simple swing tips you hear traded on the driving range. We want to actually unpack the biomechanics, the kinematics, and the physical equipment geometry that truly dictate your ball flight.
Yeah, the real science behind it.
Right, so we're going to look at some deep biomechanical studies on shaft deflection, some historical fitting data, and expert breakdowns of driver face control to just completely change how you view your clubs.
Because when you swing, you are interacting with a highly elastic system. It bends, it twists, it reacts to the physical forces you apply to it in ways that the human eye cannot even capture.
It's too fast for us to see.
Way too fast. It's just a pure game of geometry and physics. And the most critical piece of geometry we need to understand first is what actually dictates the start line of your shot.
So let's unpack that start line, because the data we are looking at in these sources is absolutely staggering. When you look at a driver swung at what the industry calls moderate speeds,
which is roughly 85 to 105 miles per hour.
Right, 85 to 105. At those speeds, the face angle of the club at the exact moment of impact dictates a massive 85 to 90% of the golf ball's initial start direction.
85 to 90%. That's almost the whole shot.
It's crazy. Think about driving a car for a second. If your swing path the physical direction the club is traveling through the air, if that's the engine providing the forward momentum, the face angle is the steering wheel.
Oh, that analogy perfectly illustrates why so many golfers struggle. I mean, even if your momentum, your engine, is headed perfectly straight down the center of the highway, if that steering wheel is cranked to the left at impact,
you're going straight into the ditch.
Straight into the ditch, every time. The path simply cannot rescue a face that is aimed badly.
So, to fix the steering wheel, we have to understand how it's actually measured. The sources give us three foundational concepts here. First, there is face to target.
Right, which is pretty straightforward.
Yeah, that's just where the flat metal of the club face is pointing relative to your ultimate target line when you strike the ball. But the second one is where people get a bit confused, which is face to path.
Yeah, face to path is the face angle relative to the club's actual travel path through the air. And this is the main engine that generates side angle and, the curvature of the golf ball.
So if your path is swinging out to the right, but the face is pointing slightly less to the right, that relationship creates the curve.
Exactly. And the third variable, which is honestly often completely ignored by amateur golfers, is closure rate.
I always pictured closure rate as just the physical release of the hands. But it's really the rotational speed of the club head, isn't it?
It is. Think of it like a door slamming shut in a breeze. Closure rate is measured around the shaft in degrees per second, or sometimes RPM.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, it's literally how fast the toe of the club is rotating around the heel to slam the face shut as it approaches the golf ball. If you have a wildly high closure rate, timing your impact becomes this chaotic game of milliseconds.
Because if you're a fraction of a second early, the face is open.
Right. And a fraction late, it's snapped closed.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So if the face angle is the steering wheel, what physically dictates where that steering wheel points at impact? You'd think it's just your wrists, but it actually starts with how the club physically sits on the ground.
Which brings up some amazing golf history.
Yeah, this is a fascinating piece from the sources. Nearly 50 years ago, a guy named Karsten Solheim, the founder of P&G, was trying to solve this exact problem of geometry.
He had this huge aha moment.
Right. He realized that golf clubs were basically being sold as off-the-rack suits. They didn't actually fit anyone's specific body type.
And Solheim totally revolutionized the game by creating the color code chart. He mapped out what we call static lie angles using two really simple variables.
Just a golfer's overall height and their wrist-to-floor measurement.
Exactly. And he created 10 color codes ranging from 5 degrees upright to 4 degrees flat. It finally gave the everyday golfer a standardized way to access custom fitting.
But, and this is crucial, static lie is just you standing perfectly still. It's taking a wedge, resting it flat on the turf at a 64-degree angle while you're just addressing the ball.
Right. That's literally only the starting point.
Yeah, the real science, the stuff that actually changes your handicap, happens with dynamic lie.
Dynamic lie is the angle of the shaft relative to the horizon at the exact microscopic moment of impact. And because of the violent forces involved in the golf swing, your dynamic lie is almost never the same as your static lie.
And the reason this matters so much is a concept called face plane tilt. Let me see if I can visualize this for you, the listener.
Go for it.
Imagine you have a flashlight caped flat against the face of your wedge, pointing straight ahead. If you raise your hands higher than where they started at address, the heel of the club lifts off the ground.
So the dynamic lie is now too upright.
Right. The leading edge of the club on the grass might still look perfectly square to your eyes, but that flashlight on the face is now actually pointing off to the left, assuming you're a right-handed golfer.
That is exactly what happens. The actual loft of the metal is tilted left. And conversely, if your hands are too low at impact, making the dynamic lie too flat, the toe lifts up.
And the flashlight points to the right.
Exactly. And what is absolutely crucial to understand here is that this face plane tilt effect is heavily magnified as the loft of the club increases.
Right, because a driver has a very flat face, maybe 9 or 10 degrees of loft. It's pointing almost straight forward.
Yeah, so face plane tilt on a driver is minimal. But a sand wedge, that's tilted way back at 56 degrees.
So a wedge is incredibly sensitive to dynamic lie.
Unbelievably sensitive. If your wedge is dynamically too upright at impact, you are going to pull it left every single time. It literally does not matter how flawless your swing path is. You are fighting the actual geometry of the metal.
Wow. And it isn't just about the ball launching left or right in the air, is it? Dynamic lie completely dictates your turf interaction as well.
Oh, totally.
Let's say your dynamic lie is too upright. The heel of the club is going to slam into the turf before the rest of the sole.
Right, and that heel digging into the dirt creates massive resistance on one side of the club head.
It acts like a brake. It just violently twists the club in your hands before the ball even leaves the face. It completely ruins the strike, the distance, and the feel of the shot.
Which is exactly why professional club fitters use a lie board. They place a special tape on the sole of the club and have you hit balls off a hard plastic board to see exactly where the scratch mark is.
Because it's the only reliable way to measure that dynamic lie under the true chaotic forces of a real swing.
Spot on.
Speaking of chaotic forces, let's look at what the swing is physically doing to the shaft itself. We mentioned earlier the club isn't a static hammer, but there is a 3D forward dynamic simulation by McKenzie and Spriggins in the sources that completely shatters how I view the golf shaft.
Oh, that study is phenomenal. They built a theoretical simulation to quantify the exact mechanisms of shaft deflection during the swing.
Yeah, they looked at the resultant force applied by the golfer at the grip end of the club, and they separated it into two distinct physical components. The first is the tangential force.
Right. And let's translate that out of physics jargon.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Imagine a giant clock face painted on the ground around your feet. The tangential force is the energy pushing the club forward toward 12 o'clock or dragging it backward toward 6 o'clock.
So it's the forward and backward bending. Yes, that forward and backward motion of the swing.
Okay, and the second force?
The second force is the radial or centripetal force. This is the energy acting straight down the length of the shaft, pulling outward away from your body as you swing.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you and push back on one of the findings regarding that tangential forward and backward force.
Uh-oh. What is it?
Well, the simulation data shows that during the downswing, tangential forces cause the shaft to deflect in the lag direction, meaning it bends backward, trailing your hands by up to 4 centimeters.
Yep, 4 centimeters.
Wait, really? 4 centimeters? That is over an inch and a half of pure bending. That sounds like you are swinging a wet pool noodle,
Mm.
not a highly engineered piece of steel or graphite. I mean, how in the world does a golfer even control a system that is bending that wildly?
I know, it is a shocking measurement when you first hear it, but you have to remember the immense speed and force being generated in just a fraction of a second from the top of your swing down to the ball.
So it's not just flopping around.
No, not at all. That 4 centimeters of lag deflection isn't just wasted bending. It is actively storing strain energy.
Ah, like pulling back a bowstring.
Exactly like a bowstring.
Yeah.
As your hands slow down just before impact, that stored energy is violently released. The shaft whips forward into what we call lead deflection.
And that directly affects the dynamic loft of the club head, helping you launch the ball into the air.
Exactly. But while that tangential force causes the forward and backward whipping, the radial force, that outward pull down the shaft, causes something called droop.
Droop. I mean, that just sounds terrible. That's the shaft bowing downward laterally toward the ground.
It is. Think about the physical design of a club head.
Yeah.
The center of mass is heavily offset from the straight axis of the shaft. It's hanging off to the side.
Right.
So when you swing and generate massive centrifugal force pulling outward, physics dictates that the heavy club head wants to align its center of mass perfectly straight with the shaft. To do that, it pulls the shaft into a downward bow.
Okay, now let's connect this back to what we just discussed about dynamic lie. Because the shaft is drooping downward in the middle, the toe of the club is forced downward toward the grass.
Yes, which physically makes the club head sit more upright at the exact moment of impact.
As we learned with the flashlight analogy and faceplane tilt, a more upright club head pushes your start line to the left.
Exactly. The actual physical bending of your shaft under radial force is actively trying to make you hit the golf ball to the left.
That is just wild to think about. And the simulation highlighted a really fascinating quirk about this, too. They found that if you mathematically reposition the center of mass on the club head, you completely alter these deflections.
Oh, yeah. This is my favorite part of the study.
It's crazy. When they reversed the mass condition in the computer, it was scientifically analogous to hitting a ball off the face of a left-handed driver while using a right-handed swing.
It's just wild. It proves just how delicate the geometry of a golf club truly is. A single millimeter shift in the center of gravity changes how the shaft bends, which changes how the face points, which changes where your ball lands.
Which brings up the most common tragic mistake amateur golfers make. When we hit a massive slice into the trees or a snap hook into the water, we immediately blame our hands.
Always the hands.
We think, oh, my release timing was bad, I flipped my wrists. But the biomechanics experts argue that a missed fairway is actually a blend of geometry and human perception.
It is entirely human nature to blame the body part closest to the action. I mean, your hands are the only things touching the club, so you assume they're at fault.
Makes sense.
But what you can't feel is that the club is actually trying to close itself. This involves two major mechanical factors, the toe-up moment and shaft torsion.
Okay, let's break down the toe-up moment first.
So, as you swing down from the top, the mass distribution of the club head creates a gravitational and inertial pull. Because the toe of the club is heavy and sticking out on a lever as your swing speed increases, the physical forces naturally want to rotate that toe upward and inward.
Which violently closes the face.
Yes.
So the club inherently wants to snap shut on its own.
Huh.
That explains so much. This is why larger driver heads with draw biases have more weight shoved into the heel, right?
That's the exact reason.
By putting the weight closer to the shaft, it gives the heavier toe more leverage to swing around like a door on a hinge, helping that closure happen earlier for players who tend to leave the face open.
Precisely. You're using the toe-up moment to your advantage, but then you have to add shaft torsion into the mix. Torsion is the shaft literally twisting under the load of the swing.
Twisting, not just bending forward and backward.
Right, twisting. If you have a shaft with higher torque, it allows more angular twist between the handle secured in your hands and the club head at the bottom. So, let's say you get anxious on the tee box. You rush your transition from backswing to downswing, applying a sudden, jerky spike in pressure. That torsion can add a late, completely unpredictable pop of twisting closure right at the bottom of the swing.
So your hands might have done the exact same fundamentally sound motion they did on the practice tee, but the invisible twisting of the shaft betrayed you.
It's heartbreaking, really.
Okay, so let's say by some absolute miracle. You manage the droop, the lag, the toe-up moment, and the torsion, and you manage to deliver the club face relatively square to the target. You still have one more hurdle.
You got to hit the middle of the face.
You had to hit the center, because if you miss the center, you trigger the gear effect.
The gear effect. This is where the exact millimeter of your impact location overrides almost everything else we've talked about.
It's that powerful.
Oh, absolutely. Imagine two physical gears interlocked with each other. If you turn the left gear clockwise, the right gear is forced to turn counterclockwise.
Okay, so the golf ball and the club head are those two gears.
Exactly. When the golf ball strikes the club face off-center, the club head physically twists around its center of gravity. If you hit the ball out on the toe, the sheer force of the impact pushes the toe backward, twisting the club head open.
Like two interlocked gears.
Right. And as the club head twists clockwise, it physically drags the ball across the grooves and imparts a counterclockwise or hook spin onto the golf ball.
Wow. So a toe strike artificially adds draw or hook spin, curving the ball left, even if your face and path were totally perfect.
Yep.
And a heel strike violently twists the face closed, imparting clockwise fade or slice spin, curving the ball right. But there was also a vertical gear effect, right? It alters what we call spin loft.
Yeah, vertical gear effect is huge for driver distance. If you hit the ball high on the face above the center of gravity, the club head tilts backward.
Which effectively increases the dynamic loft, launching the ball higher.
Correct. But because of how the club head is tilting, it creates a sliding effect that actually reduces the backspin friction on the ball.
So high phase impact equals higher launch but much lower spin.
Which is the absolute holy grail for hitting bombs.
And conversely, hitting low on the face pushes the club head forward, increasing the spin rate, which causes the ball to balloon up in the air and fall short, losing massive distance.
You got it. So when you take all of this, the dynamic lie, the shaft droop, the toe-up moment, the torsion, and the gear effect, how do PGA professionals actually use this data to help you?
That's the real question.
The goal of a professional fitting, especially for a driver, is about synthesizing these chaotic variables to maximize launch angle and minimize backspin. But finding that optimum blend is a real puzzle.
Let's run a hypothetical scenario. Let's say I'm a golfer who naturally fades the ball like. My swing path naturally puts a little rightward curvature on it, but my current driver is launching way too low and my misses are weak slices.
Yeah.
What practical adjustments are we making based on this science?
Well, first we look at the shaft's flex point, or deflection point. This is the specific spot on the shaft where it is engineered to bend the most. If you need the ball to fly higher, we fit you with a shaft that has a lower deflection point, meaning it bends closer to the club head. That increases the lead deflection at impact, adding dynamic loft.
And if I was hitting it too high and wanted a lower piercing trajectory, I'd need a shaft with a higher deflection point, closer to the grip.
Exactly. Next, we address your weak slice. Modern technology gives us adapter settings on the hosel to actively combat the physical realities of the shaft.
We don't have to just accept the slice.
Not at all. We can adjust the adapter to make the lie angle more upright. As we know from face plane tilt, an upright lie angle points the loft left, giving you a geometric head start against your fade.
We could also choose a draw-biased head, packing that weight into the heel to maximize the toe-up moment, forcing the club to aggressively snap shut through impact.
That's another great option.
But there is a testing protocol that I absolutely love from the fitting manuals and the sources. When you were going through this process, they recommend testing the exact same club head across two different adapter sleeves.
Oh, yeah. That's a great tip.
Because manufacturing tolerances in factories aren't absolutely perfect. Testing the identical head on two supposedly identical sleeves can yield surprisingly different, truer results.
That's so true. One sleeve might naturally sit just a fraction of a degree differently, and that fraction changes your dynamic lie.
It just emphasizes the ultimate takeaway here. Every single piece of the club is a live variable. A golf club is a dynamic living system during the swing.
Your start line, your trajectory, and your ultimate ball flight are the result of a complex mathematical equation.
Right. It is your dynamic lie, plus the shaft droop, plus the lead and lag, plus the torsion, combined with the exact millimeter where the ball impacts the face to trigger the gear effect.
It's a lot going on.
Which brings us to the most important realization of this entire deep dive. Why should you, the listener, care about tangential forces and gear effects? Because understanding this stops you from ruining your own swing.
That's the biggest thing.
I mean, think about it. You are basically calibrating a complex instrument. If your natural, totally functional swing produces a slight fade, but your equipment's dynamic lie and shaft droop are actively forcing the face left, you are going to subconsciously alter your
You
biomechanics.
definitely will.
You'll start tweaking your grip, dropping your shoulder, or changing your posture just to fix a hardware problem.
That is the real tragedy of bad fitting. Millions of golfers are actively destroying perfectly good swing mechanics to compensate for a dynamic lie angle or a shaft torque that simply doesn't fit their physical delivery. You are basically making the physics work against you.
You are breaking your setup to accommodate bad geometry. And that is an incredibly powerful realization. By understanding these variables, you become an empowered golfer. You stop fighting ghosts in your swing, and you start using sports science to stabilize your ball flight. If you enjoyed today's deep dive, please subscribe to our channel and share it with fellow golfers, coaches, and PGA professionals. And if there's a topic you would like us to research, analyze, and discuss in a future deep dive, feel free to send us an email or connect with us through LinkedIn.
Yeah, absolutely. Whether your interest is golf biomechanics, kinematics, ground reaction forces, swing mechanics, putting, coaching, club fitting, technology, or sports science, we would really love to hear from you.
Exactly. Our team will review your submission, conduct extensive research, analyze the available evidence, and may create a dedicated deep dive, article, video, or testing project based on your topic. Thank you for being part of the eCoach 360-degree community.
And I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over. Think about your specific natural ball spin. Do you naturally slice or naturally hook? Now look down at your driver. Is your equipment geometry fighting your natural tendency or complementing it? Because if your steering wheel is permanently cranked left by your gear, it doesn't matter how smoothly your engine runs.
Such a great point. Next time you step up to that tee box and execute a flawless swing, remember, it isn't just about the motion of your body. It is an invisible high-speed battle of physics. Make sure you bring the right weapons to the fight.